Hello everybody, how good to be with you again. Today in our story we are imagining that the story is told to us by a boy who lived at the same time as Jesus was on earth, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I'm going to call this boy Reuben. Now, whenever I talk to you in a story, with a story that's being told by the person who's in the story, do you remember? I put this scarf on. So when I've got this on, I'm the person in the story, and when I take it off, I'm me again. So here we are. Hello, my name is Reuben. Today I want to tell you about something which happened to me, which I shall never, ever forget. Now, I live by a really big lake, which is called the Sea of Galilee, or sometimes the Sea of Tiberias. Even though it's not really a sea, it's a lake, but it's so big that it's called a sea. One day, I asked my mother if I could go out onto the mountainside near where we lived, where lots of other people were going to listen to a man called Jesus. Now, this man called Jesus had become quite famous for going around telling stories to people, talking to people, and healing people who were sick, generally making people better or making people feel better. My mother said yes, I could go, and she packed me up a small picnic. Off I went with my mother calling out, "Take care, Reuben, have a nice day." Now, it was quite a warm day, and there were many, many other people with the same idea as me. So I followed the crowd along up into the hills. It took quite a while before we saw Jesus and his friends, his disciples, and by the time we got there I was quite hungry. Actually, I'm nearly always quite hungry, but this time it really was nearly meal time. I managed to get quite close to Jesus, and I stood next to a man I knew was called Andrew. Jesus was talking to his friends, his disciples, and talking to them about food. Then I saw Andrew looking at my picnic. Before I could say anything, Andrew told Jesus about my picnic. In my picnic were 5 little loaves of bread and 2 small fish. Those fish were my favourite. Then, to my surprise, Jesus asked for the picnic to be brought to him. My picnic being taken to Jesus. Now, it's the next bit of my story, which is so remarkable. After Jesus said everybody should sit down, and after he'd said thank you for my picnic, he took hold of the bread and started breaking it into pieces, kind of bite-sized pieces, and the fish into kind of bite-sized chunks. And he gave all these pieces to the disciples to take round to all the people who were sitting there. The people held out their hands, and the disciples placed little bits of fish, little bits of bread in the disciples' hands, and the people's hands. All the people who were sitting there had little pieces of bread and fish to eat. But do you know, the remarkable thing was that the more Jesus broke and the more the disciples gave out, the more kept coming. It didn't disappear. Jesus kept breaking. The disciples kept giving. And there was still more left to give. Didn't disappear. In fact, everyone was full up, could eat no more. When that happened, after everyone had had as much as they could eat, Jesus asked the disciples to collect up all the scraps that were on the grass and just around where people were sitting. There were lots of scraps of food, crumbs and bits and pieces, maybe some fish bones. And I counted, after the disciples had collected up all those pieces and put them into baskets, how many baskets do you think were full of scraps of food? Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10, not 11, but 12. 12 baskets of leftovers, scraps that nobody wanted anymore. Wow. I thought to myself, I can hardly believe my eyes, and my mother will never believe me when I tell her what happened to that lovely picnic she made for me. And I scrambled back down the mountain as fast as I could on my way home to tell my mother all about it. What a remarkable day that had been, and one I will never, ever forget. Well, what an interesting story Reuben had to tell, and how remarkable. How special Jesus was to be able to do something as wonderful as that. He just knew what the people needed, and he just gave them everything they needed with more to spare. Jesus can do that for us too. Okay, so till it's time for our next story, stay safe, be kind, be helpful, and take care. God bless everybody. Bye for now.